Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 35 based on novel. So let's start. The ruler destroyed. People died. Xiao Yan's voice just fell in his mouth, but in his eyes, he had already been replaced by the icy meaning of heaven and earth. The body shape that had just retreated was also a flash in an instant. At the same time, the space behind Fang Zun collapsed again. A huge golden giant appeared behind Fang Zun. The purple and golden dragon scales showed a golden light under the cover of the golden light. A huge dragon claw also swept behind Fang Zun with the fierce force of tearing the void. In Xiao Yang's heart, Shen Chongkai has already become one of his taboos. Although the different fire giant ruler only condenses with different fire, it also plays the role of Shen Chongkai. Now his weapon has been destroyed for the second time. Xiao Yang's heart is extremely angry. When Xiao Yanshuo's big figure appeared behind Fang Zun also reacted instantly. After seeing Xiao Yang's rather strange figure, Fang Zun was also stunned. However, even if his figure hurried back, the ice broadsword in his hand swung fiercely in front of him and slashed with Xiao Yang's dragon claw. Chong! With a clang, the fierce fire burst out from the collision place, and the action under Xiao Yanlong's claw was slightly blocked by the broad knife for a moment, but only after a moment, Fang Zun's broadsword was pressed down by Xiao Yang's claw, and the other dragon claw was also fiercely grabbed at the same time, and one claw grabbed Fang Zun's head. With the powerful momentum of tearing the void, the sharp dragon claw magnified sharply in Fang Zun's eyes. At the critical moment, Fang Zun also couldn't take care of the ice broadsword in his hand. One palm slapped on the handle fiercely. Between the sparks, some purple and golden dragon scales also fell from Xiao Yang's dragon claw with a little blood. Xiao Yang ignored this, grabbed the ice broadsword in his palm, and then threw it back fiercely. The ice broadsword shot at top speed towards the endless mountains. The other dragon claw also came over Fang Zun's head. If Fang Zun grabbed it, he would die. Drink. The burning lion is broken. Suddenly, Wang Qi's wild sound like a roar of an animal broke through the air again. A huge fire group like a meteor also collided with the dragon claws above Fang Zun's head. In a moment, the two had been bombarded together. Bang! Although he was not hurt by this heavy blow, Xiao Yang couldn't help taking a big step back, and the void behind him collapsed. Fang Zun, come on, use your move and solve him at once. Otherwise, you and I will fall here today. While Xiao Yang was repulsed, Wang Qi also shouted to Fang Zun with a dignified face. Fang Zun heard Wang Qi's words and knew what Wang Qi said in his heart. Even if he nodded heavily, stepped on the void and flashed, he appeared above Xiao Yang's head. At the same time, all the fighting spirit in the cyclone in his body, it is also a rapid condensation between its palms, and a very cold ice bead is also formed rapidly. Ah, it's very cold and icy. Give it to me. Suddenly, Fang Zun also made a shocking drink from his mouth, and the passage speed of qi in his body was also more rapid. When Xiao Yang had just stood firm and had not completely recovered his mind, Fang Zun over his head suddenly slapped Xiao Yang's head, and an ice bead the size of a fist also shot hard at Xiao Yang's head with the terror of the frozen world. Drink. Burst. It's extremely cold and icy. The world is frozen and the vitality is buried. Seal it for me. Boom. The sound of a cold drink just fell, and the ice bead that had not touched Xiao Yang's head broke instantly. An extremely overbearing ice force also spread rapidly, and Xiao Yang's huge body was frozen in less than a breath. But even so, Fang Zun and Wang Qi did not dare to relax at all. Their bodies soared into the air and formed a diagonal to surround Xiao Yang in the middle. And his hands, but also the rapid knot, a cumbersome knot is also played by the two people at a high speed, the other people are dazzled. Heaven's pole, Shen Bing Yin, Bing Soul, Shen Sho. The pole of heaven, Shen Yang seal, lion heart, Shen Sho. At a certain moment, the action in their hands finally stopped slowly, but in their mouth, they shouted softly at the moment when the printing stopped. At the moment, although the momentum in their hands can be called against the sky, I'm afraid it's not so easy to see their faces. Of course, compared with Fang Zun, Wang Qi's loss is too much less. At the moment, he looks a little better. Looking at Xiao Yang, who has been completely frozen, there is still no movement at the moment, as if he had been completely frozen. At the end of the seal knot in Fang Zun's hands, there was a violent yin wind blowing between heaven and earth, and the endless mountains and forests below had already turned into a surer hell without any vitality. Mr. Yang Xiao, these two fighting skills in our hands are both heaven-level advanced fighting skills. After many years of continuous training and mutual cooperation, even human-level fighting skills can compete with them. If you can resist them today, we should leave and will not be difficult to you. As for whether we can resist, it all depends on your creation. The voice in Wang Qi's mouth fell slowly, and when the voice in his mouth fell, he also looked at Fang Zun, then nodded together, and once again burst into the sky, and the seal knot in his hand suddenly roared towards Xiao Yang in the next moment. Silence, death-like silence. At this moment, even Fang Zun and Wang Qi's heart beat suddenly. Their eyes stared at the two fighting light seals roaring towards Xiao Yang, and their hearts were even more nervous. As long as the two seals bang on Xiao Yang, today's war will be over, and they will finally be relaxed. Although he killed a peerless Qianjiao, it also reduced a more powerful enemy for them in the future. 1,000 feet. 100 feet. 100 meters. 50 meters. 10 meters. The ice is broken. At the moment, the two light marks are only inches away from Xiao Yang's body surface. Boom. An earth-shaking explosion spread in an instant, and the world trembled. Then a terrible fighting storm swept away in an instant. Fang Zun and Wang Qi couldn't help narrowing their eyes and looked at the middle of the storm. Click. With a crisp sound, Fang Zun and the others could not help but frown, and there was a slight bad feeling in their hearts. The two men looked at each other and saw the color of surprise and doubt in each other's eyes, but they didn't wait for the two men to act. In the middle of the fighting storm, a paint-black fighting light column with a width of 100 feet tore the void in an instant. Before Fang Zun turned his eyes, he had been bombarded with his body. There was no sound. Fang Zun's body only supported a few breaths. It was instantly penetrated by the black light column, and the light column didn't disperse until it reached the end of the void, leaving only Wang Qi with a look of fear. So far, Fang Zun, a 7-star-and-a-half emperor, died. Fang Zun. Dead. Dead. Wang Qi looked at the end of the lacquer black light column with a dead grey face. In that place, he could still detect some Fang Zun's breath, as if he were still between heaven and earth. It's a pity that even that breath is slowly dissipating, announcing Fang Zun's death. As I said, the ruler destroyed. People died. Xiao Yang's faint voice came from Wang Qi. When Wang Qi turned to look at Xiao Yang, the gorgeous fire plate in Xiao Yang's dragon claws had just dispersed. Wang Qi saw that Xiao Yang's huge dragon claws trembled. Wang Qi took a deep breath and looked at Xiao Yang. His tone was very cold. I admit that your strength is too much beyond yourself. I'm afraid you're a good hand in dressing up as a pig and eating a tiger. This seemed like a joke, but it also failed to make Xiao Yang show the slightest smile. There was a glimmer of vigilance in Wang Qi's eyes. Xiao Yang had to admit that Fang Zun's move to freeze the world really made him difficult to parry. Even his own strange fire was also difficult to resist the power of the Ice Soul. The power of millennium cohesion and one-time interpretation is indeed extraordinary. However, it's a pity. At the last minute, Jiyu Laro finally took the shot, and the two moves of Tianjia fighting skills are much easier for Xiao Yang. Under his Buddha's anger reincarnation, Tianjia fighting skills are like nothing. Today, I, Wang Qi, will find revenge for Fang. I will kill your rock owl here. Wang Qi's eyes were filled with hatred. A pair of dark old eyes became scarlet because of the hatred in his heart. The flame in the depths of his pupils condensed the shape of a lion's head, making the void space in front of him distorted. Suddenly, Wang Qi's stronger body than ordinary people was suddenly shocked, and then his muscles began to rise rapidly, and his whole body expanded more than a dozen times in just a few seconds. Xiao Yang also clearly saw that some of the broken clothes were quickly filled up by Wang Qi's muscles. Then it was as if it had been torn, and was forcibly broken by Wang Qi's growing body. Roar. Wang Qi raised himself to the sky and gave a roar like a lion's roar. A domineering flame instantly turned from his mouth into a towering pillar of fire and rushed to the endless void. Lion Heart Bully Body Formula. With a roar, Wang Qiban soared again in his expanding body, and his body shape changed greatly again. Originally proud of the sky, now it is like a beast, crawling on the sky, but the stronger and stronger body becomes strange. At his chest, a very bright lion's head fire seal from the inside to the outside is surging like a real flame, emitting a terrible high temperature enough to eliminate the void. Wang Qi's normal human head is now showing the prototype of some kind of beast in a disgusting peristalsis. It seems to be lion's head. After a long time, in Xiao Yang's slightly shocked eyes, Wang Qi's growing body finally stopped at this moment, but at this moment, Wang Qi has lost his appearance as a human and just turned into a warcraft. The huge body is no less than Xiao Yang, who has displayed the body of Vajaglass at the moment. His clothes and robes have already been turned into nothingness by the flames. Dark golden skin is more tenacious than those dark steel in heaven and earth. A fire tail with a length of nearly 100 feet is constantly dancing in the void behind it, and bursts of hissing sound come out. At the moment, Wang Qi has completely changed into a burning lion. Xiao Yang looked at Wang Qi, who had changed greatly in the short film, but couldn't help laughing at the violent color in the pair of animal pupils. The lion heart dominating the body formula. I think it's better to call the lion heart quitting the body formula. In order to defeat the enemy, I turned myself into such a disgusting shape. Even my own heart was controlled by your beast fire and became a real Warcraft. It's really stupid. I really don't know. How could anyone create such a secret method that destroys human nature? The lion in front of Xiao Yang seemed to understand Xiao Yang's sneer. A bloody mouth sent out bursts of low animal roars, and then his huge body shook suddenly, which made the world shake 3 times, but his body shape had disappeared in place. At the moment when the lion disappeared, Xiao Yang's sneer finally became ugly. Bang! But without waiting for Xiao Yang to act, an extremely terrible force poured into his body from his back, and Xiao Yang's body was directly blasted out under this bang. Pooh! On the way to being blown away, Xiao Yang couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of reverse blood from his mouth. He didn't expect that after variation, Wang Qi's strength was already comparable to the ordinary 8-star and half emperor. After he made full use of the reincarnation of Buddha anger, he was still unable to parry in a short time. The body suddenly shook, and the blown figure was forced to stabilize. Xiao Yang rolled down his throat and swallowed the fishy sweetness, and the look at the male lion in front of him was also very dignified. But the lion seemed not to give Xiao Yang any breathing time. Xiao Yang's body had just stopped, but the lion had a big mouth and a broad energy beam of tens of feet, which shot at Xiao Yang in an instant. Where it passed, even the void was distorted, and on the earth below, there was an abyss hundreds of feet wide, which formed rapidly. At the moment, Xiao Yang's internal fighting spirit is just weak. He doesn't have the mind to connect this light column. Tianjue's step will be exerted to the extreme in an instant. Behind Xiao Yang, a puff, a pair of broad wings of different fire, also appear in an instant. Although the 2 wings of different fire have disappeared, the essence of them has been completely integrated with the wings of different fire. I'm afraid it's even faster than the original. When the terrible energy light column hit, Xiao Yang's eyes were shining. Then, the terrible energy light column directly penetrated Xiao Yang's whole body, and Xiao Yang's figure was completely crushed under the energy light column. The huge lion saw this scene, and his huge head twisted slightly. He looked at the place where Xiao Yang was crushed in doubt. Although his strength has more than doubled, now Wang Qi has turned into a real killing Warcraft. Human wisdom no longer belongs to him. Now he is just a powerful beast. Are you sure? Although you incarnate into Warcraft, you don't even have the wisdom of some high-level Warcraft. Flames. Bite. Waves. Feet. Suddenly, behind the lion, a fierce drink suddenly rang out. A large group of gorgeous flames were also burning, emitting bursts of frightening high temperatures. At the moment of Xiao Yang's fierce drink, a fierce and incomparable fire orn burst out from the fire group and bombarded the lion's back. Roar. A terrible lion roar was issued, and the figure of the male lion forcibly twisted around in an extremely strange way. The roar turned into a terrible sound wave visible to the naked eye and bombarded the terrible fire. With the blocking of sound wave, the speed of the fire orn rushing forward is also 1 ton, while the male lion suddenly rushed towards the fire orn, and then swallowed it in Xiao Yang's shocking eyes. Although there was a roar in the body when the fire orn entered the body, the male lion's body only recovered after a slight bulge, but the fire orn completely disappeared. However, at the moment, the fire seal on the male lion's chest sent out an extremely warm light, as if something was being refined by it. Although the movement was almost imperceptible because the lion was full of fire, in front of Xiao Yang, who was full of fire, he would immediately detect any movement of the fire and show it. That's the source of your strength. As long as you destroy the fire seal, your 8-star and a half emperor's strength will be defeated. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's heart also reacted instantly, but at the same time, he felt a thorny feeling in his heart. The position of the fire seal seemed to be in front of the lion's chest, where it was the most tightly defended place. If you want to hurt the fire seal, you must get close. But Xiao Yang at the moment is not sure that he can fight closely with it. If so, I'm afraid he has been badly hurt by the beast without waiting for himself to get close to the fire seal. When Xiao Yang felt difficult, There was a powerful energy fluctuation in Xiao Yang's body. Although this energy fluctuation was not as good as Xiao Yang, the breath was already comparable to a star-and-a-half emperor. Xiao Yang's face changed again at this moment, but at the moment, the look on Xiao Yang's face seemed very surprised, because the breath belonging to 1 star-and-a-half emperor came from the avatar in his body. Feeling the strong breath in his body, Xiao Yang was also very happy. His incarnation condensed into A, and his strength was comparable to a star-and-a-half emperor. In this way, it can be described as another killing move for Xiao Yang at the moment. Although the Numenon strength of this incarnation is only 1 star-and-a-half emperor, if the power of this star-and-a-half emperor breaks out completely, it will be no less powerful than his Buddha anger reincarnation. In this way, when Xiao Yang fights against him in the future, he will be able to play another life-saving card. It seems that today is not necessarily who is afraid of who. Mo Zhai, I Xiao Yang will take all of them. As soon as the palm turned over, more than a dozen jade bottles appeared in Xiao Yang's palm. With a strong grip of the palm, all the jade bottles burst, and dozens of Jopin Huichi pills also appeared in Xiao Yang's palm. Without hesitation, Xiao Yang stuffed all of them into his mouth, but he didn't block his mouth as expected. The high-level pill melted at the entrance. Naturally, that kind of thing wouldn't happen. Dozens of pills turned into a majestic torrent of fighting spirit, and suddenly poured into the cyclone in Xiao Yang's body from his throat. However, in the eyes of outsiders, it can be regarded as a terrible torrent of energy. At the moment, it still seems insignificant in front of Xiao Yang, a semi-imperial strongman. Jopin pill is really nothing in front of the semi-emperor strong. Alas tilde. Xiao Yang also sighed helplessly in his heart, and then he stopped paying too much attention to it. 9 pill can't work. Naturally, there are higher-level pills. With his current refining technique, as long as he gets the pill, the imperial pill can't be refined. Casually glanced at the lion around him who refused to attack. Xiao Yang also guessed that the fire orn was not so good. After all, it was a different fire. Even though it had absolute strength at the moment, it was difficult to refine quickly. And this just gave Xiao Yang enough time. After swallowing the pill, he kept moving. When the fighting spirit in the cyclone turned around, Xiao Yang's hands were already sealed again, and this seal was one of the secret skills of the ancient family. Imperial Seal Formula. The 5 seals of the Imperial Seal Formula are integrated into one, and its power is already comparable to the real heaven-level fighting skill. Now, after Xiao Yang's exertion, its power is more powerful than the ordinary heaven-level fighting skill. Looking at the lost speed of fighting spirit in Xiao Yang's body at the moment, I'm afraid the power of this Imperial Seal Formula will be more powerful than the creator of this fighting skill. When Xiao Yang gathered the Imperial Seal Formula, the refining of Xiao Yang's different fire was finally completed. After the power of different fire was integrated into his whole body, the male lion looked more like a rainbow. The pair of scarlet eyes with big bell were mixed with a little gorgeous flame, and when he looked at Xiao Yang again, unexpectedly, there was a special smell. It felt like desire and greed. The beast, unexpectedly, felt the benefits of different fire to it. At the moment, it showed a trace of greed. Hey, it seems that your body is also good. Although there is only one animal fire left, it can show such a strong reaction. In that case, I will accept this animal fire. Drink. Imperial Seal Formula, Mountain Opening Seal, Sea Turning Seal, Earth Covering Seal, Annihilating Sky Seal, 5 seals in one, Ancient Imperial Seal. Go. The voice in Xiao Yang's mouth hasn't fallen yet, but the whole person's look suddenly becomes fierce. The speed of condensation seal in his palm is accelerated in an instant. After a violent drink, the ancient emperor seal in Xiao Yang's palms is also solidified in an instant. At the same time, Xiao Yang also struck out with one palm, and an ordinary-looking strange fire palm, which was also Xiao Yang's palm, flew towards the lion. The moment the ancient imperial seal flew out, it was also an instant to meet the storm. In just a few breaths, it had turned into a large hand hundreds of feet wide, but it was like a meteor, with a long fire tail, and bombarded the lion. The male lion saw this, but his eyes lit up again, his mouth opened to the largest, and a terrible fierce suction also suddenly came out of his mouth. Between heaven and earth, there was a fierce wind, and the energy of heaven and earth turned into a huge energy vortex, pouring into the lion's open mouth. The fierce storm made Xiao Yang stand, and the empty figures shook slightly, but there was still a bright light in the clear eyes. Xiao Yang had guessed thoroughly about the beast's idea. The fierce suction in the male lion's mouth is like a black hole. Even if it has hundreds of feet of different fire fingerprints, it has returned to its original size when it reaches the male lion, and the male lion is even more impolite. He swallowed it into his belly with one bite, and the fire print on his chest becomes bright again. That's true. I'm afraid Tianjie's fighting skills can't pose any threat to you. Then, let's try this. As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Yang's heart moved. The void space in front of him was also distorted for a while, and then an almost substantive figure slowly appeared in the sky. This figure, impressively, is the embodiment of Xiao Yang's just condensation. Today's 3 incarnations have been integrated, and their strength has soared. Today's incarnation, in terms of strength, has been very strong. Even in actual combat, it is also able to help Xiao Yang, which can reduce some pressure for Xiao Yang in the future. The incarnation appeared, but Xiao Yang waved his palm, and a gorgeous different fire fell on the surface of the body, and his body was covered by the different fire in an instant. Hehe, since you beast like my strange fire so much, this will be sent to you. Go. The thought moved, and the avatar in front of him turned into a flash of different fire. In an instant, he came to the lion, but he didn't send it directly into the lion's mouth. Xiao Yang still wanted to see the real strength of the avatar. Naturally, he couldn't be anxious. Moreover, although the crazy lion has no brain, at least the instinct of the beast is still there. The strength of the incarnation is not weak. If the beast dare not swallow it, it will be a lot of trouble. It's better to let the avatar do it. On the one hand, see his strength, on the other hand, completely provoke the beast and let it take the initiative to swallow the avatar into its belly. At that time, it will naturally have endless suffering. As soon as the avatar stopped, there were powerful fighting skills in the palm of his hand, and he bombarded the lion fiercely. As a part of Xiao Yang, the avatar moves like Xiao Yang when displaying Xiao Yang's fighting skills. In the end, the avatar displays the Buddha's anger reincarnation and the Buddha's anger lotus together, one by one. It's also shocking. Of course, the momentum released by these 2 fighting skills at the moment is only stronger than that condensed by Xiao Yang at the time of fighting the saint. In today's Xiao Yang's view, it is difficult to hit the evil animal by this alone. Sure enough, although the fire lotus and the fire plate looked full of momentum, they were all swallowed by the lion at the moment of explosion. After the repeated bombardment of the incarnation, the beast's only instinct was also covered up by the towering anger. The big mouth was full of fierce and overbearing suction. Xiao Yang saw this. At the moment of his body's sudden retreat, a thought also came out at the same time, and the incarnation also passed a light in his eyes at this moment. Then his body moved and rushed towards the lion's mouth. The distance of kilometers came in an instant, but in an instant, the male lion swallowed Xiao Yang's incarnation into his stomach. At the same time, the burning animal fire in the male lion's body was like a hungry tiger, rushing towards the incarnation, trying to refine it in one breath. While the avatar entered his mouth, the different fire wrapped around his body burst open, so that the raging animal fire around his body was turned into nothingness at this moment. The power of different fire is really unmatched. Although the animal fire is obviously good, under Xiao Yang's personal control, it is also difficult to suppress Xiao Yang's different fire. Different fire really deserves to be the emperor in the fire. When the raging animal fire dispersed, the avatar also suddenly improved to the peak state. All over the body was filled with a fierce and domineering breath. Then it didn't stop. The soles of the feet suddenly stepped on, and the body also rushed towards the animal fire in front of the male lion's chest. Where he passed, because of the fierce momentum around his body, the animal fire around his body was also forcibly separated, making way for the incarnation. The fire group also seemed to feel the breath of the avatar, and a sense of danger came naturally. The already violent flame suddenly broke out at this moment, and a soaring heat wave swept out continuously. It turned into a flaming lion roaring up to the sky around its body, making it look more domineering. But the avatar didn't care about it at all. When it was approaching, the avatar's body shook again, and the scattered strange fire also appeared out of thin air again, wrapping its whole body. At the same time, the terrible fighting spirit belonging to the 1.5-star emperor in the body also began to condense rapidly at this moment. The body that originally appeared to be solid-like substance began to become transparent in this short time. Before approaching, without waiting for the avatar to move, the lion condensed by the animal fire was no less than some terrible warcraft, so he rushed towards Xiao Yang's avatar with the weather trend. The strange fire that wrapped the avatar also separated again at this moment. During the rapid change, it also changed into a gorgeous young dragon, circling rapidly to welcome the lions. In front of the strange fire, it is difficult to completely parry the beast fire with the power of 8.5 emperors. Moreover, there is the real body of Xiao Yang in the outside world. To sum up, Xiao Yang today can be regarded as a special spirit of different fire. Xiao Yang, with many different fires in one, has the power of different fire, which is no worse than the real spirit of different fire. If he is not weak, he is not qualified to jump in front of him with this animal fire. When the flame lion was suppressed, the power in the incarnation has been condensed into a glittering and translucent pearl like a pearl at night. However, under this gorgeous appearance, it also has the terrorist power that makes 8.5 emperors dare not underestimate. At the same time when the bead was condensed, Xiao Yang also spread his thoughts in his heart. Then, the incarnation that had become almost invisible hit the lion's original fire with the only truly substantive terrorist energy. All of a sudden, the earth and the sky shook, and the male lion's body all around Wanli collapsed at this moment and turned into an endless void. At the moment, there is a huge vortex of terrible energy in the male lion's body, just like a black hole, emitting the terrible suction that makes the semi-imperialist strong tremble. The huge body of the male lion, which originally covered the sky and blocked the sun, is also at this moment, just like the meat thrown into the meat grinder, it was instantly torn by the terrible energy vortex. The terrible energy vortex, after forcibly tearing up the huge body of the male lion, has an unabated momentum. It is like breaking free from the shackles of the male lion's body. The violent and incomparable terror suction is fully displayed at this moment. The earth that has turned into a wasteland is also fragmented under this fierce storm. At this moment, all gravity is like nothing. All objects are swallowed up by the vortex and turned into nothingness. Even though it was thousands of miles away, Xiao Yang still felt that his body was slowly approaching the vortex uncontrollably, which made Xiao Yang feel more dangerous in his heart. The energy of heaven and earth between heaven and earth is uncontrollably converging into the energy vortex. Even the still burning animal fire is irresistible and is being torn into the vortex by the terrible suction. On the horizon, Xiao Yang frowned when he saw this. Unexpectedly, the outbreak between the two would produce such terrible power. His body wanted to retreat, but Xiao Yang saw the animal fire still struggling, but his heart was moved. Although this animal fire is not a different fire in heaven and earth, after Wang Qisong's sacrifice, its power has been expanded hundreds of times. If the original fire is swallowed and refined, it can also play a little role in his cultivation, which makes Xiao Yang reluctant. With a sigh in his heart, Xiao Yang's palm turned over, and a large number of jade bottles appeared in Xiao Yang's palm. Without hesitation, the palm shook hard, the jade bottle burst, and dozens of pills also appeared in Xiao Yang's palm. Just like eating beans, he swallowed it in one gulp. A magnificent fighting spirit also invaded Xiao Yang's throat like a river flood. Xiao Yang also felt that his throat seemed to be choking suddenly, which made his throat seem to be enlarged at the moment. When that feeling passed away, the cyclone in Xiao Yang's body was already filled with a magnificent fighting spirit. The slightly recovered fighting spirit also gave Xiao Yang a lot of confidence in his heart. When his mind moved, the field of inflammation expanded instantly. Only in this field, Xiao Yang's ability in all aspects could be improved to a certain extent. In front of this terrible vortex, Xiao Yang really didn't dare to trust it. If he was accidentally dragged into it, he might be difficult to escape. As the field unfolded, Xiao Yang's mind moved, and the gorgeous different fire appeared out of thin air. During the rapid transformation, it turned into a sky fire dragon hundreds of feet a day. There was a very hot breath between breathing and breathing, so that the void was broken after a burst of distortion, and turned into a more dark and deep endless void. The hot dragon appeared, raised to the sky and sent out a dragon roar, and then the huge body moved with a bang, which was rushing towards the energy vortex with the extreme pressure of heaven and earth. To be exact, it should be the animal fire struggling in the middle of the vortex. Before this terrible energy vortex, even if its power is already good, it is still difficult to struggle with this vortex after the bombardment of 1.5 emperors. At the moment, the beast fire has become the end of a powerful crossbow. If you can't escape from the vortex, the final end will be swallowed by the vortex and turned into nothingness. Under the terrible attraction, everything in this world is difficult to escape its terrible destructive power. The animal fire that was still full of momentum before is difficult to parry at the moment. The distance between the two is only a few hundred feet. At the moment, it is closer and closer. It doesn't take a moment to be swallowed up by the vortex. Roar. With a long roar from the sky, the huge Yang dragon rushed towards the vortex with a great momentum. Before it came near, the Yang dragon took a big mouth, and the different fire in the mouth condensed rapidly into a huge fireball, which roared towards the center of the vortex with the blazing high temperature. The Yang dragon was also a huge body. Suddenly, it passed through the void in an instant. The huge dragon claw grabbed the struggling animal fire. As the hot dragon approached, I didn't know whether it was the beast fire's natural fear of different fire or the hope of life. Unexpectedly, it contracted together independently, put away its terrible high temperature, and waited for the arrival of the hot dragon's claw. While the hot dragon's claw is grasping the animal fire, the fireball full of violent breath in the middle of the energy vortex also explodes at the same time. A terrible energy ripple spreads from the center of the vortex. In addition, the energy of heaven and earth swallowed by it is more powerful than the one when the avatar explodes. The void within tens of thousands of miles collapses at this moment. Within tens of thousands of miles, it turns into a desert in an instant, and all vitality disappears under the terrible energy storm. After the attack, the world was silent, and everything turned into nothingness. Seeing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This war is over now. It's really unexpected that an 8-star-and-a-half emperor's desperate counterattack will produce such terrible results. Even Xiao Yang feels powerless. The only thing I didn't expect was that the energy vortex would be so easy to burst. It was just an explosion of different fire. This result really made Xiao Yang a little unbelievable. Perhaps the idea in Xiao Yang's heart was confirmed, or maybe it should have been. The silence between heaven and earth did not support for a moment. When the animal fire finally fell into Xiao Yang's hand and Xiao Yang was about to retreat, the wind and cloud rose again between heaven and earth. One more terrible energy vortex than before suddenly emerged from this void space. Xiao Yang has been completely surrounded by it and is in a dilemma. Looking at the dozens of more terrible energy whirlpools that suddenly appeared, Xiao Yang's face changed greatly at the moment. Even the previous energy vortex is hard to compare with one of them, not to mention the previous energy vortex. Xiao Yang is very dignified. At the moment, among the dozens of energy vortices in the depths, Xiao Yang is even more difficult to deal with. Maybe, he really left his life here today. Although the heart is very dignified and wants to go back to the previous time and leave the animal fire, there is no regret medicine in the world. At this moment, in such a dangerous situation, there is no other way. Life and death is just between Xiao Yang's thoughts. At the time of the dilemma in Xiao Yang's heart, the dozens of terrible energy whirlpools did not give Xiao Yang any extra time. Once the terrible suction was released, Xiao Yang was already standing in the void. He shook a little. Even with Xiao Yang's determination, he still felt powerless. The current situation also makes Xiao Yang wake up quickly. It's good to be in a dilemma. But if he retreats, he really can't retreat. Only if he advances, he may have some opportunities. Otherwise, he can only wait for death. With Xiao Yang's character, he decided not to be the kind of person waiting to die. Therefore, what is put in front of Xiao Yang at the moment is actually only one way. Rush out, catch that thread of vitality and escape from life. This video will end here.